Hello everyone, thanks for tuning to Sims Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, today we are going to be reviewing Time After Time. No, not the Cyndi Lauper song. Although I love that song. This is a young adult sapphic romance by Mikki Daughtry, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. This is not a book I would normally pick up. It was sent to me by the publisher, so thank you again, publisher, for sending it to me. Because this is not a book I would normally go to the bookstore and be like, oh yeah. I mean, I usually read lots of fantasy, not really a lot of contemporary romance. I was pleasantly surprised. It's a dual timeline, and it follows Elizabeth and Patricia in the 1920s, 1925 specifically, and Elizabeth, is a society girl, and Patricia is her Irish maid, Elizabeth is really, really easygoing. She's not pretentious at all. She's just a girl, just trying to make the best of her situation. And she falls in love with Patricia, and Patricia falls in love with her. And, 1920s, their romance completely frowned upon, right? So they keep it secret. And then something happens. I'm not going to tell you what, but something does happen to tear them apart. Fast forward to present day. Sorry, that was like a bit of a drag. Trying to wrap my thoughts around it. Fast forward to present day, you have Libby and you have Tish. Tish, who is part Irish and has flaming red hair just like Patricia. And Libby, who's drawn to the house that used to be Elizabeth's and uses the money her grandmother gave her to buy the house. In her will, she left her all this money. She's like, do what you will with it. Her grandma's like, you're going to buy the college. She's like, no, I'm going to buy this house that I've been dreaming about since I was a little girl. She buys the house. And she moves in because her father, who had all these plans and ideas for her, kicks her out. I liked the characterization of this book a lot. I think for all, basically 3 points of view, because you have Libby and you have Tish, and they have their point of views, right? But you get the past, Elizabeth and Patricia through Elizabeth's journal entries that Libby finds when she's cleaning out the house. And she's discovering there are lots of similarities between her and Tish and Elizabeth and Patricia. She's discovering, wow, we have a lot in common with them. The magical realism aspect of reincarnation, the idea that love transcends all. I like those themes in the story, and I think that they do ring throughout the entire narrative. And it really allows you to connect with the characters, because not only are you reading about Elizabeth falling in love with Patricia and their romance, but the emotional impact of their romance and how it affects Libby and what she does in the next stages of her life, because she's already breaking out of that mold that her father set for her. She's already, embarking and doing things her own way, right? She's living her life the way she wants to live it. And to see that come alive, to see her not want to be restrained the way Elizabeth was forced to be restrained by, 1920s Gilded Age society, it really sparks something in her. And there's this sense of finding community and finding home, finding oneself in the midst of a crazy world that I think was really, really interesting to read, because it also reflects with Tish. Now, Tish, she's a headstrong girl, and her mother is kind of an absentee mother. Her mother was there for her when she was a kid, and then somewhere along the line, she just stopped being a mom. She just kind of stopped, not because she got, drunk or drugs or anything. She just kind of stopped caring about her own daughter, and it's really sad. So you're seeing both of these girls kind of find their way and struggle to find their way, and in doing so, they're finding themselves and finding each other drawn to the other one. And they're falling in love in the process. And I think it's really beautiful to read them fall in love. My biggest takeaway, however, had to do with one of the side characters, Honey. Let me say, it was such an impactful moment for me to see Honey go from being Elizabeth's frenemy to her best friend, to living the rest of her days taking care of Elizabeth and being her best friend and her person, being with her for the darkest days. I mean, that was such a moment. Just that whole scene just like flipped it. Because she was not a nice girl. She was not a nice character. And she just flipped the narrative, and Harper became like one of my favorite characters after that. I was just like, wow. Because of the emotional impact, and because you're seeing Honey through Elizabeth's eyes and how they come to care for each other and become friends. And you're seeing Honey kind of rectify, like, wow, my past behavior is not okay, because it hasn't. Teasing you has always been for fun for me, but it actually hurt you this time. And she's like heartbroken that it hurt her. She's like, it was never meant to hurt you. Like, it was just mean girl energy. So I think that was like my biggest takeaway from that moment, that Honey became her person. And I was just like, well, that's sweet and heartwarming. And good on Elizabeth for being the bigger person, because I know if it were me, I probably would have pushed Honey down the street or Honey down the stairs or into the street. But I just thought it was such an impactful moment that really resonated with me. I was just like, wow, that's kind of beautiful. Just the act of forgiveness and this act of friendship and finding camaraderie and becoming best friends through all the darkness and grief in the world. But I also loved seeing Libby and Tish find each other again. Because halfway through the story, you know that they are them reincarnated. That's not even a spoiler. You know it. So to see them fall in love and find their way to each other, and to see how they were torn apart, it is a beautiful moment. And I thought, for me, I read it like that so quickly because I was emotionally invested in it. And I thought it was really just kind of, like I said, sweet and well done, well executed. It's atmospheric, the pacing's on point, and I don't get lost between the dual timeline, I think it flows the narrative in a really smooth way. So in any case, thank you all for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book reading friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.